What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into Roundtable Sports, and your Senior Bowl day number 2 recap is about to be live right here. So shout out to everybody that is tuning on in. We are super excited. Brought to you by BetUS as always. Roundtable Sports is at the Senior Bowl. We were there today and yesterday, and we'll be there tomorrow. Make sure you guys like this video right now and subscribe to Roundtable Sports. We're really excited to continue giving you guys our standouts at the Senior Bowl. Let's get straight into business. Dan, how you feeling, man? Day number 2 of the Senior Bowl in the books.
So I'll tell you what, we were so efficient today when it came into our media time. Now, say for example, so if you guys are unaware, media gets about 10 minutes on the field directly after practice. So yesterday, we were somewhat efficient. I think we ultimately ended up leaving with about 2 interviews, but today really ended up segmenting it out, and we were putting content all over X, Instagram, TikTok, and we ended up getting crazy interviews from several would-be first-round draft picks, and we also ended up seeing quite a bit from practice. Some risers, some fallers, some guys that may have improved their draft stock, and then also some players that may have shot themselves down as more of a day 3 sort of pick situation. Troy, what's up with you, man?
Man, I think it went by a lot faster. I feel a lot like more burnt today. You know what I mean? I mean, you did your thing. You were, you know what I mean? You found a way to protect yourself.
I did.
I didn't do that. You know what I mean? I came in with some confidence. I'm walking out of there without confidence, man. I don't feel fantastic. But it was a good day because I felt like yesterday we built the foundation, and today it made it a lot easier to watch because you had an anticipation of who was going to do what, and then you could kind of build on that and be able to see like how it changed over a day. So I thought it was way better than the first day.
And big time shout out again to BetUS Sportsbook for being the proud sponsor of this show. This is the Senior Bowl Day 2 recap, and we're really excited to break it all down. Colby, how did you feel after day number 2 of the Senior Bowl, brother?
Yeah, I think Troy hit it perfectly, and that's just the fact that, you come in here day 1, we've never done this before, we don't really know the expectations. Now we know the expectations. Now we know players that we liked, we didn't like, guys who needed to step up, got some interviews under our belt, so we came into day 2 definitely a lot more prepared. I definitely felt a lot better. I mean, I feel like this is the one thing that I feel like for me that was the same on day 1 as it was with day 2 here, was the fact that the national roster, I think, stood out to me a little bit more overall, offensively, defensively. It was a little bit more intriguing. And then the American roster, I feel like 2 days so far, that American roster, the defense, more specifically in the trenches, the defensive line has just owned opposing offensive lines, running back, quarterback. So definitely, I think one of the biggest things that stands out to me, that American defense is legit.
Yeah, the American defense felt like it stole the show, and we're really excited to break it down. And we already have a super chat, and I want to kick this off to our guy, Dose of Dion, because Dion has some insights on this guy. Thoughts on Willie Lampkin, the offensive lineman?
Yeah, bro. I mean, he's been, I think, one of the most impressive offensive linemen. I thought yesterday was kind of like, okay, there's something there. There's some run game movement, and it stood out because, as you guys pointed out, the defensive line kind of owned the day. So when anything went successful, it was like, well, who was on that play, leaning on the left side? And then today I thought he built on it. Like I had 4 or 5 notes that I had of Willie Lampkin with reps that I thought he won. And for him to carry that over, I didn't have a lot of issues with him. I think Lampkin's been one of the most consistent players on either side of the trenches throughout the entire thing so far, especially on the offensive line, because usually that's messy. So I think Lampkin's been fantastic. I don't know where his stock was before, but I would assume that it's went up.
We have some NFC North Roundtable love right now because we're live in the NFC North Roundtable at the same time as the AFC East and the Roundtable Sports Channel. Skull's in the house. You got something to say to Skull?
No. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I ain't got nothing to say to y'all. I ain't got nothing to say to y'all, bro.
Shout out to the NFC North Roundtable and all the YouTube channels. We're live. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We are very excited. Dan, give me a standout that you really took away from the most today.
So I'm going to tell you what, like Colby, walking into the Senior Bowl, I was like, you know what, it's going to be the American roster for me, but it's really the national roster, which is really taking the show, or stealing the show, if you will. And one in particular, we were absolutely enamored with the performance that we ended up seeing from Jaden Higgins on day 1, right? His length out on the outside, 6'4", great route runner. He was consistently winning his reps. But however, his teammate today was the one that was really, really stealing the show. And that just so happens to be Jalen Noel from Iowa State as well. Wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 have been out in the Senior Bowl showing out. We ended up seeing Noel absolutely cook whatever DB that was lined up against him. He has the speed. He can climb the ladder. Don't let his size fool you. this guy is going to be a steal wherever he ultimately ends up falling. My guess, probably around the 3rd or the 4th round. And it's funny because the DB that we were all somewhat glazing on day one, Azarie Thomas, I will tell you what, today he was giving me quite a few red flags, and Noel was that wide receiver that was going out there, and he was exposing him on several of those reps.
So I feel like, Azarie Thomas was the guy I was looking forward to the most seeing today, and he definitely didn't boost his draft stock. Yesterday was a strong day, so I'm excited to see what he does in day number 2. There's a lot of corners to love as well. I think Brandon Adams out of UCF is another cornerback to really, really keep your eye on. But I want to get into the quarterbacks because the quarterback position for the Senior Bowl is very intriguing to me, and I feel like both the stars heading into this really boost their draft stock today as opposed to yesterday. Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart had a very good day today compared to what they looked like yesterday. Starting with Jalen Milroe really hit on a lot of deep balls. He had like 3 consecutive deep balls that you're like, wow, okay, he can really drop that into the bucket when he needs to. And Jackson Dart, he was really on rhythm today, finding those tight rhythms, those tight windows, using the velocity, throwing darts. You know what I'm talking about? Jackson Dart throwing darts. I mean, this is the guy out here that really needs to boost his draft stock, and I feel like he had a strong day today compared to yesterday. It was a little underwhelming with the fumbles, so definitely an uptick for both Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart. Also got to give a shout out to Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. I feel like he had a strong showing today. He has a lot of poise, a lot of confidence, and those are the 3 top quarterbacks heading into the Senior Bowl that are really trying to make a name for themselves in a semi-weak quarterback class. So, do you have anything to add on the quarterback position, Colby?
Yeah, I would definitely say, and I think this is something me and you were talking about, Dan, was the fact that Dylan Gabriel, I think that he has been the best quarterback
He's been my guy.
2 days.
He's been my guy.
The zip he has on the ball, the velocity, the arm strength that this guy has. I think he's been the most consistent in all 3 phases. A lot of people want to talk about how much big chunk plays can he get? How can he be deep in the field? I want a guy who's going to be the most consistent, can get the ball out quick and fit it into a tight window. I think that guy is Gabriel. Now, when you're talking about someone like Jalen Milroe, definitely a bounce back day today. Still struggling in the short to intermediate section. Those are still my biggest questions about him. I knew that Jalen Milroe was athletic. He was a developmental guy, someone who was going to hit those deep passes. He's still struggling in that short to intermediate section, and that's still my biggest concern.
Now, what I will say about Gabriel, right? I'm kind of concerned about his height. He is 5'11", but then again, like several quarterbacks have been able to get it done. He is a lefty, and when Colby says that this guy has zip on his ball, he's throwing piss missiles out there, ladies and gentlemen. In tight coverage, it's really something to look out for. Now, most improved, I'd probably have to give it to Jackson Dart as well. Much better day 2 than he did on day 1. One specific play, he fit in a tight window, right into double coverage, and the play of the game was his deep ball to, I want to say it was that one Georgia wide receiver that dropped 3 passes in a row. And
Number 11?
Yeah. So number 11 when it came into it. Oh, is my mic not working?
Yeah, I feel like my mic is the only one that's on.
Is that right?
Mic check. Everyone put it like this. Mic check.
Yeah.
Mic check. Mic check.
All right, try to talk like this over the top. Try to talk like
Look at
that.
that bad boy right there.
Y'all let us know.
Should be good. Everyone just talk over the top of the mic.
Yeah. We're just going to have to go ahead and knock out with that. But Dart really ended up sort of making that happen with that deep ball right into very tight coverage as well. Was very impressed with Dart. But like Colby, I'm going to have to say that Dylan Gabriel has been the most impressive through 2 days of practice.
How about you, Troy?
Yeah, no, I think the Milroe conversation was fantastic yesterday, if we're staying on quarterbacks, because I think Colby laid it out perfectly. Not that it's like, okay, we can excuse everything, but it's also understood coming in. So you think about Dylan Gabriel, you think about his background. I think he was the guy that fit more into the aspect of you expected it to look a lot cleaner, right? We expect that out of his game, that's kind of who he is stepping in immediately, especially when we get to some of these more vanilla reads. What we're looking for is those traits. And to you, what you pointed out, we can have the ups and downs there because the expectation with Jalen Milroe. We good? Make sure we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Let's just bounce off this. This one's not working.
Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like the quarterback position is definitely dynamic. Is there anything else from the quarterback position you guys want to add before we move on? Now, Dan, I want to get into you, right? Yeah. Quarterback position aside, I want to talk about the edge rushers because you had an awesome interview, and we're going to play it, all right? But before we play the interview you had with the prospect, why don't you break down what you saw from him?
Stewart is going to be a first-round draft pick. This is the most massive human being I have ever seen in my entire life. 6'6" out of Texas A&M. And the one thing that we knew, and by the way, he was the one that was matched up by that offensive lineman that was asked about earlier in the show today, right? Or was I thinking about another offensive lineman? Yeah. Those two were going at it, especially on 11 on 11s. But
I would say the play of the damn game was when Stewart ended up completely blasting this left tackle, getting into the backfield and causing a forced fumble on said quarterback. I believe that it was Seth Hennigan who was the one that ultimately ended up fumbling it afterwards, but he's athletic. His footwork is absolutely lethal. He is going to be a day one impact player, and he ultimately ended up having a hell of a proclamation when I interviewed him on the field today. Listen to what he had to say about how he thinks his first year in the NFL is going to go.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am with edge rusher from Texas A&M, Shamar Stewart. Crazy practice, Shamar. A lot of people are projecting you to go in the first round. Now, if that does happen, what is going to make you stand out from all the other edge rushers that have been out here today and throughout college football?
Because I'm gonna keep developing. I'm gonna try to go get that defensive rookie of the year. I'm trying to make an immediate impact to wherever team I got chosen to go to.
Got it. And last question, I've been asking everybody this. Who is the number one quarterback that you would like to sack in your rookie season?
Lamar.
I'm
I'm a Florida guy, so I gotta go get him.
And so it'll be a hell of a test. And so we appreciate you, Shamar.
Damn, wants to go after Lamar Jackson.
It's Lamar Jackson. I told him good luck with that. But no, listen, you know what? His proclamation is far. And granted, I haven't seen Abdul Carter in person. He is not here in the Senior Bowl by himself. But like what I have seen from this edge rusher and just all the edge rushers at the Senior Bowl so far, somebody put in the chat, DTN, my boy, coming on in here. They are saying that this is arguably, or it could be that same draft class that we ended up getting the likes of Nick Bosa and Max Crosby and so many other stout edge rushers. So heavy. If your team is looking for someone that could wreak havoc in the backfield, this is the class. And Stewart is probably my favorite. And I'll tell you what, I really am not going to put myself out into a position and disagree with him. I think that he will be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, regardless of where he goes.
Yeah,
absolutely
you're
insane.
You're seeing, the former, or I think the favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year this year is Jared Verse, Florida State edge rusher, and you see what he did for the LA Rams. So I feel like if somebody can find an edge rusher in the first round, I think Shamar Stewart is a guy that can come in and wreak havoc immediately out of the gate. So I agree with that.
Stud.
Yeah, that entire edge rusher position is loaded, as you all said. And it's, the cool thing is the guys that we got interviews with, I feel like all produced pretty well.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I was excited for Josiah Stewart because of what he did yesterday. Everything felt to carry over. Then he comes in today, and I felt he was consistent again. And we also have so many of these guys from like small schools, and there's so many different like fits, which makes this so exciting because it's not just deep in like one type of defensive end. It's deep across the board. You got guys stepping inside. Everybody's moving around. You always get that with the offensive line at the Senior Bowl. But you're seeing everybody try out nose tackle. They kick inside. Then you'll have a defensive end step inside. And they're all trying these different roles, but there's so many different builds to stand-up rushers that can settle their hand in the dirt. The flexibility is crazy. And to think that this is the Senior Bowl is nuts. Like, the Senior Bowl is not supposed to have this many good edge rushers, right? Those guys are supposed to be chilling. They're 21 years old. They're not eligible for this, but they're here. That's how loaded this group is, and I think you can see it if you just go straight down the roster.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about these edge rushers, but I think the biggest guy we're not talking about that improved his draft stock today was Mike Green. Those one-on-one matchups, he absolutely dominated Josh Connerly. That's someone we do our Draftaholic show. A lot of us had, as our third best tackle, absolutely bull rushed him and killed him, which says a lot. And now we're talking about someone like Mike Green, who was a projected second-round pick, now going in the first round. Now, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were looking on mock drafts and whatnot, and you saw Mike Green go in the top 10. So this is somebody who is starting to get a lot of respect, and his draft stock rose today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy that had that one-on-one rep, right? We got to pull it up because Mike Green went out there and had a ridiculous one-on-one rep, and it is going viral across everywhere. So let's see if we can pull it up because what he was able to do today has been, there it is. I mean, this is something that you can watch on repeat as NFL fans. Look at your screen now, folks. This is what Mike Green is capable of doing, and this is what you have to do when you go to the Senior Bowl, all right? When you go to the Senior Bowl, it really feels like you have to be able to have some type of splash to raise your draft stock, and this is exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I mean, look at that, dude. It is something special to see. Just go boom. Well, who's that against? That's number...
Yeah, it's Connerly.
Oh, my gosh, dude. That is something else, bro. This is... What do you think the scouts are thinking to themselves when they see something like this?
He's super twitchy. I mean,
want
if
that
you run
guy.
that clip back and you just run it from the front, I mean, look where he's at versus where the offensive tackle's at in terms of his set, right? He's into his second stride by the time the offensive tackle gets settled down. So immediately he's in a bad spot right there, right? Now his chest exposed. He's not settled down. There's no strike, and he's just sitting there wide open. So a guy that is like that, that's that quick off the ball, that's undersized, it's all about leverage, right? That's the advantage you have, and you can see that it played out in a play like that.
The other thing, too, though, is I feel like a lot of edge rushers, they're either power or they're speed. But I think with Mike Green, we saw, especially on that rep, that this is a guy that is going speed to power, and that's exactly what you want because those guys succeed in the NFL.
Absolutely. And there's so many awesome highlights that we saw today. And I feel bad for that offensive lineman because his draft stock definitely is plummeting a little bit, if you're asking me. But I mean,
He had a couple losses today. He did have a couple losses today, no doubt.
Did he?
Yeah, I had him a few times with a few little losses. But I mean, just to go on that real quick, like obviously that kind of clip is going to get a lot of the hype, and I think he deserves it. I think it was a much better day, but I still don't know that he was the best edge rusher here. I mean, when you see what Shamar Stewart's been doing, Donovan, I thought had another fantastic day. Where I walk away like run defense, pass rush. He's a little bit more of the tweener type. I don't even know that he's a top pass rusher, and that's what's crazy about where we're at.
And this is a clip that I got of Shamar Stewart that Dan was alluding to, the forced fumble he had. I had it actually got on camera, which was awesome to see. So this was Shamar Stewart screaming off the edge. And he got hyped up, pounding his chest. Look at the energy. I mean,
That's what you need.
It's far away.
240. Tough.
Absolutely
It
incredible.
looks a little bit like me, actually.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's you, Troy.
Yeah,
I mean, we have
so-
so many clips that I took. I mean, this is where was it? Another defensive tackle, Deion Walker from Kentucky, had an elite rep that got him a TFL. Watch this one. I mean, right there, you see him in the backfield immediately. He was literally in the backfield before the running back even got the ball out of the handoff. So that tells you all you need to know about that one. And another tight end. Let's get into the tight end position. This is arguably one of the best tight end classes I mean, we've seen in a long, long time. And even Brett Coleman went out there and quote tweeted us saying this is possibly the best tight end class since 2010, just dude after dude. And here's a Miami tight end, I mean, making an absolute phenomenal route inside and getting an easy catch. I mean, the route running ability is phenomenal. And I feel like this could be the deepest tight end class we've seen since 2010. Do you agree with that, Troy?
Yeah, I mean, it's deep. I don't want to put a title on it, but like in recent memory from the full drafts that I've done, this is up there with any of them. I mean, we had a few years ago where it was pretty loaded as well because it was so heavy in the mid rounds. Yeah. And once the second round started, everybody's like, let's find a tight end. That to me tells you where you're at with tight end because tight ends are just hard to find in the first round. You have to have like a special guy that makes sense. This year has potentially two of those guys, and then the second round is loaded. So I think it competes with all of them.
And we have a lot of highlights we want to show you guys on your screen. So this is a highlight from Jalen Noel, who turned heads at practice today against the corner we talked about who had a little rough day, FSU's Thomas. So let's take a look at Jalen Noel turning heads at Senior Bowl practice as well.
Dude, that
It was insane.
I mean, look at his body. I mean, this is good coverage, by the way, by Thomas.
It's great coverage.
I mean, what more could
So
Thomas
what else
do?
could Thomas do in that situation?
He needs to
think that's the
turn. I think he
question.
turned his head the wrong direction. If he turned his head to his right shoulder, he would and flipped his hips in the wrong way. That would have gave him a little bit more leverage to go up there and try to get the ball. But he didn't see the ball. That's what happens.
Well, Richie, you see what he did there is the problem is that he turned his head, right? He's
Yeah.
looking for the ball. You're supposed to play the receiver, not supposed to play the ball. I think that's what we're on there.
Exactly. And I mean, shout out to Jalen Noel. Just going up there and get it.
see you.
Well, Jim, I don't know, Jim.
Bro, I think that is an interesting
That
point,
throw
though.
was a little my homie. I'm not gonna lie.
No, bro, I do think that plays interesting, though, because what Colby just said, like, everything I've been around is you've always been taught play through the hands. But I think as you get to a higher level like this, it's like go make a football play, right? Go make a play on the football.
Yeah.
Scouts want to see somebody take the football away. So you try to play into that. He's all over the guy at that point, and then as Richie said, you flip the wrong direction, you open up your blind spot, dude. That's a crazy catch. What a focus there. There was a couple of those today. Great catch with great coverage.
Absolutely. And I feel like, Dylan Gabriel, like you guys alluded to, has had a phenomenal last two practices. I actually asked Dylan Gabriel myself, who are the quarterbacks that you mold your game after the most? And he had an interesting answer because this is someone that's a southpaw, someone that's a smaller stature. So he compared himself to a lot of interesting quarterbacks in the NFL. So let's take a listen to this one.
Are there any quarterbacks that you model your game after the most in the NFL level?
Not necessarily. I try to take, something from everyone, but I think
continue to watch guys of smaller stature execute at a high level and play really well. Brock Purdy, Tua, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and that's just a couple. But you watch those guys and see how they maneuver and how well they've played in the NFL. But then also you admire guys that are different, and Jared Goff and Patty Mahomes and Matthew Stafford, guys who are different in stature than me and have a different playing style, but you can still learn from everyone.
Hey, man, he's a likable guy.
This guy's going to be fantastic.
Why? Because you said Jared Goff? Is that why?
He knows ball. He knows ball.
You heard Jared Goff, and you're like, oh, this guy's a stud.
He just knows ball. He said guys that are different. And he listed 3 of the best in football. The Stafford, Mahomes, Goff. I mean, that's usually how most people do it. Unless you're Dan Mitchell, you put Josh Allen there for some reason.
Oh, come
most
on.
people, that's what their top 3 looks like.
You're talking about all-time greats. You got to throw in Aaron Rodgers. And
Well,
doing there.
yeah, we're not talking about all-time greats.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's on another level. Sorry about that. But listen, man, I feel like Dylan Gabriel, do you feel like what round do you feel like he's going to go? And is he rising his stock enough in the Senior Bowl to is he day 3 or did he show enough to be like day 2, maybe a 3rd round pick? Or do you think he's more round 5, round 6 type of prospect?
Yeah, I would say right now, if I was guessing, I think he goes day 3. That'd be my guess right now, because I think with quarterback, we've seen guys come out really efficient, and then there's questions about what is this going to turn into, and then you get guys that fall because of that reason, in terms of just expectation of what it could turn into. But the difference is with Gabriel, what it feels like when you watch him. Oregon's been doing this with quarterbacks. It feels like there's going to be a pretty high floor. Everybody's going to question the ceiling, right? But I think Gabriel's looked really good. I think y'all laid it out. He looks like the best quarterback. So if someone should be rising his stock, it should be that guy.
Now, speaking of the NFL draft, we want to provide some odds provided by BetUS, the #1 online sports book on the face of the planet. You guys can use the code YouTube150 when you sign up to BetUS Sportsbook to get your 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your next 2. The odds to be the first overall pick, Cam Ward is the clear betting favorite right now on BetUS to be the #1 pick to the Tennessee Titans. Do you guys agree that Cam Ward is going #1? Travis Hunter's at plus 200, and then you have Abdul Carter is actually the second favorite at plus 175. Chat, you guys let us know who's going #1, and you guys have any objections. It will be Cam Ward or someone else.
Yeah, there's been a lot of conflicting reports. We originally heard that that's the guy that they were 100% going with, and now we're hearing that they want to go with the best player available. They want to go with a potential blue chip player. So now we're hearing a lot of Travis Hunter potentially going first overall. I think we don't exactly know right now. I do think it is ultimately between the two, and I think that the pre-draft process will really determine which one of those guys gets taken first.
Yeah, I think Cam Ward is a guy that you can't pass up on as a Tennessee Titan. Don't have a quarterback. I don't really trust Will Levis. Abdul Carter is this dog, though. I mean, watching that game, with Penn State, the bowl game, I was very impressed. He was getting to the quarterback at ease, and I wish he can drop to my Jets at 7, but that's not happening. So definitely interesting. If you want to get some value, though, Jackson Dart going #1 is at plus 5,000. But
Jackson Dart, baby.
Jackson Dart, baby. But all jokes aside, definitely go check out BetUS, folks, the #1 online sports book.
Dude, value-wise, I'd throw some money on Travis Hunter, bro. I just think someone falls in love with that dude. And it's saying first overall pick. Could somebody fall in love to the point where they trade up for him? I think everything's on the table. If I was looking for value, I'd go Hunter.
It's that Heisman effect, man. That's it.
Oh, yeah,
it's
dude.
that Heisman effect.
I mean, he's special, man. It's just, you guy playing both sides of the football, someone might fall in love with that.
So are there any guys that felt like you got disappointed with today or yesterday that you were excited to see coming in and you're leaving with a bad taste in your mouth? Anybody in particular?
I would say someone I'm disappointed in would be Xavier Restrepo. I mean, I feel like this is 2 days in a row where this is a slot guy who you're expecting to get a bulk of the production. He's expected to be right now the second, third round selection. And right now I feel like he's been pretty quiet. I feel like right now he's feeling, more so like a 5th round pick. This was a guy that I've been targeting for my New England Patriots to really come in and be a starting slot receiver, take a bulk of their work. And right now hasn't showed me enough. He's had moments, but I think he's just been too inconsistent for me.
Yeah, that's someone, out of the slot. You expect a little bit more, especially at the Senior Bowl when you have all those one-on-one opportunities to kind of separate himself. And I feel like when it comes to the quarterback position, I had such high expectations for Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart, and then I haven't met it yet, even though today was a positive. Dan, is there anybody in particular that comes to mind and disappointing that you feel like today you were excited about and you're like coming away from it like, that didn't really have a good day today?
So I'll tell you what, it's definitely Azariah from Florida State. It's definitely Azariah Thomas from Florida State for me. First practice, I was falling in love. I loved his measurables. I thought that he looked great in coverage. I don't want to sit here and say that he's going to be a bust in the NFL. I do not believe that, but I do think that if he wants to have a successful career, a team is going to have to draft him that runs a predominantly zone scheme. I don't think that he has the fast enough feet. I don't think that he has quick enough change of direction. So many different reps we ended up seeing Thomas get absolutely burned in separation, 3-4 yards of separation on several of his reps so far. he needs to be drafted in the right system. It cannot be like a Kyrie 2.0 for the Buffalo Bills, where they draft a
He looked
guy
good in the
great
AFC
in
Championship
man
game.
coverage, but then when it ultimately ends up coming into zone,
He's screwed. I feel like Thomas needs to be drafted into a relatively zone scheme and has to have the right coach.
Interesting. Anybody that you're a little disappointed in?
I think a couple, man. I mean, immediately Landon Jackson pops up for me. I know we had the interview with him, and I think that was fantastic. But I think where he was, what the buzz was before we got here versus, I think it's just such a loaded room. Like, someone's going to fall out of that. So maybe someone falls in love with the traits that you can't teach. The dude is an absolute giant. He's long as heck. I mean, he can play stand-up. But in terms of production, it just hasn't been there for me. Like, I want to see more consistency winning against Senior Bowl guys one-on-one. I just haven't seen enough there versus everything else that we're getting. So that'd probably be the biggest standout for me in terms of guys that's, maybe just been a little bit disappointment. Richie, I know you got somebody.
Who?
The tight end? Fannin? I thought you were going to.
Oh, yeah. Fannin definitely was someone I felt like was like, oh, he's the best tight end. He's better than Tyler Warren, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, he hasn't done anything, right? He hasn't really done anything to be excited about, really nothing to really think that he's a first-round pick. But at the end of the day, I think that's a big disappointment in terms of being able to be the guy out of the tight end position from Bowling Green. So I agree with that. But, I mean, that's going to wrap up the Senior Bowl Day 2 recap. You guys have anything else you want to say before we finish off the show?
no, we just want to say that we
Thank everybody for tuning in for the past couple of days. Again, we are going to be doing this show this time straight from my studio with Bob in the background.
Okay.
I'm very excited for you guys to smack the hell out of Bob and talk about what we ended up viewing from day 3 of practice. Thank you again for your consistent report. And again, we remind everybody, if you are watching on YouTube, on X, please go follow us at RoundtableSN on X. That is where you're going to find all of these clips, all of these interviews that we have been doing all week. Let's go ahead and pump them numbers up, baby.
Okay, I'll try to throw this in here real quick, just because we have been kind of down on the offensive line, yesterday especially. I thought today was a lot better. I think I'm just looking at the names here across the board. Like, Gray Zabel was fantastic yesterday. Kobe, I know we saw, and then today I thought he built on that again. It's like, this dude's fantastic. But the amount of guys that I feel like were better today, outside of Wyatt Millum, I'm still disappointed in him. The amount of guys that were just more consistent, maybe that's just cohesion, being consistent with the offensive line that you're around. There's so much movement taking place. I just thought across the board, especially in teams, it was a little bit more productive at times. It was the defensive line still won the battle, but I think there was just more little standouts within the offensive line than I had yesterday. Maybe that's just knowing the players
We
a
need
little
some
bit better.
optimism, heading off of this
You
stream.
gotta have
That's what you're here for, Dosa Dion. We love you, bro. Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode of Senior Bowl Day 2 recap. Like Dan said, don't forget to subscribe over right here on Roundtable Sports and all the Roundtable channels, and follow us at Roundtable SN on X and Roundtable Sports on Instagram and TikTok, by the way. We love you guys. Big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring today's show, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for day number 3 and the final day of the Senior Bowl practices. Peace out, folks.